D&B Yu-Gi-Oh show. Dun, dun. We still don't have music. That's next week's project. Is we're gonna find music for this. But you are listening to the D&B Yu-Gi-Oh show, where we talk Yu-Gi-Oh and Yu-Gi-Oh accessories. I'm your host, Dylan, and I am with Bader, co-hosting as always. But we're going to talk about some locals, Yu-Gi-Oh locals, of course, our experiences, and we're going to follow up with some future events that you can go to, like regionals, maybe a YCS, and then we're going to talk about some upcoming sets and some cards to look out for them. And at the end of the show, we're going to be having a discussion on what makes a good card. So, I think I won chess, so I'm going to have you start with your Yu-Gi-Oh experiences. I think yours is probably going to be better than mine anyway.
Like 4, 5, maybe 6 interactions on your opponent's turn. So I won game 1 pretty quickly. Game 2, my opponent's going first, and I draw my opening 5 cards, and I see there's a Fuwalos in my hand. I'm like, hey, that's pretty good. So I say, during your draw phase, I'm going to activate Molcharmy Fuwalos. He's like, man, I hate you, Bader. I was like, yeah, this card's pretty good against you. So he starts playing into it. I'm drawing cards. Like 6 draws in, I draw another Fuwalos. I'm like, hey, activate Fuwalos just randomly. He's like, oh, dang it, Bader. So he keeps going. I'm drawing. He sets up like Phantom of Yubel, Varudris, Unchained Soul, not Shyama, whatever of Rage, Unchained Soul of Rage with Yama Engrave. He has a trap that's like a pop 1 on both players' field. Or maybe it's just pop 2 cards on the field. And then like 3 cards in hand and Nightmare Pain and another set card. I'm like, okay. He says pass. I was like, how many cards you got on your field? We counted out. He has 8. I count how many cards I have in my hand. I have to shuffle 4 cards back into my deck. I've never drawn that many cards off of a Molcharmy. Yeah.
God damn.
So I just like shuffle my hand, pull 4 out randomly, put it back. I draw for turn. It's evenly matched. So I go, draw phase, stand by main. Battle phase, activate evenly. He changed his Varudris, which I just completely forgot was an Omni Negate. I'm like, dang, that sucks. Chaining 3 droplet, sending my evenly matched. He's like, I really hate you, Bader.
Goddamn.
Yeah. So he banishes everything except for, I think, Unchained Soul of Rage. Then I go main phase 2, normal summon Sylvie, do some searching. He imperms or ashes me at one point. I can't remember which one, but it doesn't matter because my hand is just all gas because I had 14 cards in hand. And then he just kind of gives up. So that was a pretty fun round 1 for me, anyways. Round 2, I don't remember what I played against. Oh, I do. It was Fiendsmith Ryziel. I lose the dice roll. He does he starts doing Fiendsmith stuff. I ash like his Fiendsmith Tract. No, his Fiendsmith Requiem, that's what it was. So he couldn't get a free summon from the deck. So then he goes into his Ryziel plays. I don't interact with that until he summons Duo Drive, which I imperm. So I'm down to 3 cards in his hand. He still has enough cards to summon Detonator. And then he has like 1 card in hand. Passes. I look at my hand and it's just, yet again, all gas. No breaks. I'm powering through this board. I set a card. It's Toy Soldier. I send it to the graveyard to summon Diabellstar. I order my Chain Links. He chains Duo Drive to pop my Diabellstar. I'm like, that's cool. Toy Soldier comes back. I set Sinful Spoil Deception. Toy Soldier effective search for a light level 4, and he does not chain Detonator, but he imperms it, or effect veilers it. I was like, okay, you could have just gotten rid of the body, slapped Typhon on. Oh no, I didn't put Typhon yet. I normal Sylvie, and he popped that, and then I slapped Typhon because all the gas was like not as good as I thought it was into Detonator because it had 3 materials. So I was like, this is just going to be the best thing because I also had the White Forest of Woes that summons from the deck. So I Typhon, bounce back the detonator, attack over the duo drive. He has nothing left in hand since he used his effect Veiler. Pass, he can't do anything, so he passes back to me, and I'm just like, White Force combo kill. And then game 2 is pretty much the same thing. It was just, he went first, set up his board, I opened Droplet, and then I just power through his board. Game, or round 3 was yet again Fiendsmith Ryziel. Or was it? No, because I played Fiendsmith Ryziel round 4 as well. I can't remember what my round 3 was, but I won it. Round 4 was Fiendsmith Ryziel. I was playing someone within our group. He loses the die roll. I go first, and my hand is the most broken hand I have ever seen in my life. And he has no hand traps. So I'm popping off. I made a misplay at one part of it, but because of how good my hand was, it didn't matter. And my end board was Dragoons, Diabell of the White Forest, Cross Sheep, a set fusion spell to Guardian Chimera him on his turn, 3 cards in hand, Imperm set, the White Forest quick play that tributes a synchro to target a card to negate it to effect, and then I can summon an illusion back. I had Sylvie on the field, the Omni negate, Light and Dark Chaos Angel, and then a graveyard just set up so I can add cards to my hand during my opponent's turn to make a Guardian Chimera properly. He normal summons like Sword Ryziel, activates effect to summon 1 from the deck. I chain the fusion summon to a special Guardian Chimera on his turn. Pop both of his guys. He's like, okay, activate Tract. I was like, Ash. And I was just waiting for him to like just drop towns or anything, and he's just like, nope, you got it. I think I should probably just concede the match. So
Oof.
we didn't even go to game 2. He just said this deck is just too crazy, and I don't think he's comfortable enough with the deck yet. But he was 3-0 throughout the time. Then he obviously dropped down to 3-1.
Mm.
Then there were 2 4-0 players, me and then our belt holder of the month. And so we start our match for deciding who is the belt holder of that month. We're the only 2 in our round 5. I lose the die roll. He goes first, and his hand is cracked. Mine is good, but not good enough. He just keeps popping all my stuff with his detonator. I was like, yeah, man, I just can't. So we'll go game 2. Game 2, when I tell you this hand was the most broken hand of all time, I mean it was broken as in like it was not stable. This thing could not hold up a paper clip. Going first, because I decided to go first, my hand was infinite impermanence, triple tactics talent, triple tactics thrust, Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. So I set 4 cards, pass. And then he looks at me, he says, I don't have a single hand trap in my hand. These are all Ryziel monsters. I'm like, well, let's see if I can live. And then I guess he said he drew Effect Veiler.
Of course.
Spoiler alert, that doesn't matter because he told me he drew Effect Veiler. He won. But I got to my second turn because I impermed him and ashed him on tracks, which was good enough to live on like 2,500, I think, because he just attacked me with a detonator and duo drive. And I just could not draw anything. I drew Diabell Star, but that just wasn't enough. So I got bodied,
Oof.
and I got second place, which actually got me a second place trophy for the locals.
Yeah.
So
It was the Dark Magician one.
yep. So like there were some cool things from it, but it was just disappointing that the worst hand I've seen in my life just happened at the most important game.
Yeah, well, I would say my experience was very different because I've been playing cash, but I don't really like know what to do with it. So I've just kind of just been like playing zone lock just because it's like, yeah, whatever. I'm hanging out. Uh, But my game one, I'm playing against Goblin Bikers, and I set up double Shang, and then I like have Unicorn on their standby phase, and I like lock. I think I have 3 of their zones locked. And they're like, "Yeah, we're just gonna go to game 2." And I'm like, "All right, cool." Game 2, they go first, and I have shifters, so like they're setting up, but they're banishing a whole bunch of cards. I think they end on like 2 Xyz monsters that are like 2,500. They're irrelevant. I draw for turn, and then I have Birth and Fenrir and 2 Ash Blossoms, and they start the turn with Fuwalos. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm just gonna use one of these. We're just gonna stop this right now. We're not even gonna worry about it. Um,
Yeah.
uh, then special summon Fenrir. They effect Veiler it. Uh, they like even put it in the banish pile, and I didn't even think about it that you can't activate effect Veiler with Shifter Live. But I was like, yeah, whatever, you got it. Um,
Oh no.
yeah, so like I just like I'm like, all right, shit, well, all right, well I'm gonna activate Birth. And then oh no, I did activate. I had a pot of prosperity in my hand, so I waited until after that. So I'm like, all right, well, pot of prosperity, I'm gonna find something. Um, no, that was before I special summoned Fenrir, because I picked up a uh dark hole. So then it was quickly just lightning storm for the back row, dark hole for the monsters, and then I'm like, all right, Fenrir. Then they affect Veiler it, and I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna play Birth. I'm gonna normal summon this Ash Blossom. We're gonna synchro into Changing, and then I just special back Fenrir, and then go battle phase. And oh man, the lightning storm they judgmented. That's the big key to this is
Oh.
they judgmented the lightning storm, so they're at 4,000 life, and I'm so and their other trap cards were I think the one of them was for the XYZ armor card, but I had shifter lives, so they didn't have like a armor card to like equip, so that was like completely irrelevant. And I think the other one was like a goblin biker one. I think I don't remember exactly what it was. Um, but from there, like Chinging is at like 5,000, and then uh, Fenrir's at like 24. Now I completely missed the pot of prosperity damage halving. I mean, I was like 24 and then like 5,000, and then then it hit me like, oh, and you're at 4,000 because you judgmented, so this should be game, right? And I completely they were like, yeah, that's game. And as we were like shuffling up, they were like, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I should be at 300 life. And I was like, I went back and we mathed it, and I was like, yeah, actually, you should be at like 300 life. That was, we just, I could, like I said, we completely just kind of skipped over it. And they were like, they were like, oh well, I didn't really have anything in it otherwise, so I was probably just gonna scoop. But I was like, that's always like yeah, would you have though? I don't think so. I mean, you're at 300 life, you at least got to draw the card and see what it is. So I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of unfortunate. The game ended that way, but it was a cool sequence. It's just kind of unfortunate that I mismathed that. Uh, Game 2, I had to play against uh Fiendsmith Rizio. I think actually no, both my round 2 and my round 3s were Fiendsmith Rizio. It's a good deck. Cashier doesn't do anything for it, especially when you're just zone locking. Uh, you can shift her as many times as you want, but it doesn't matter. Uh, that was game 2 and game 3. Even though game 3 is against the homie, still lost that one. It was good. Both good games though. Definitely both good games. And then my round 4 was who was my round 4? Oh yeah. They were playing Krishan. And I have no. I mean, I kind of understood what the deck was doing.
I
Uh,
love that deck.
it's cool. It's definitely cool. I love all these normal monsters are going to synchro someone on your turn. It's just, like I didn't realize that they just got new support out of the new set. So I was just kind of like going with it. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm not gonna read what your cards do. Especially because like my whole deck is just like Lightning Storm and Dark Hole, and it's just like I'm just gonna force you to do something right now, and then I'm gonna play. Um, but yeah, no, they ended up making Dawn Dragster, and Dawn Dragster is really good against my whole deck of like spell cards. So, I ended up winning game 2, but game 3 it was just like I just activated a spell, and they were like, "Oh, negate," and I'm like, "All right, well." Could have negated anything, but this one's the one you got, and yeah, this one's a good one because this is gonna be game. There's nothing I can do now. But yeah, and I just end up losing round 4, to Christian. So I think I end up like 18th or something like that. I had a good time though. It's always a good time on Tuesday nights hanging out with the guys.
For real. Speaking of shifter, that reminded me of what my round 3 was. It was against Mouse,
Oh,
who shifted both of our games.
oh,
Uh,
I was actually wrong. Yeah, no, my game 2 was not Ryzeal Fiendsmith. It was Malice. Uh, they didn't really like do. I can't say that they didn't do much, but like they didn't have to do much. Because Kashtira against that was my round 3. My round no that was my round 2. Yeah, that was my round 2, and then my round 3 was Fiendsmith Ryzeal. But yeah, now that Malice is pretty good. Not that it was like, again, not that they had to do much because I mean
yeah.
I just need to find something to do with Kashtira because I mean the cards are good, but
Gotta put some Fiendsmith in, I guess.
yeah, but I gotta buy more cards, dude. Whoa. That was the locals experience. So I would say if you want to play some Yu-Gi-Oh, let's look at some locations for you to play. Let's move over to this camera. Oh, not this one. We want. There we go. All right, so Control F. Find me some. We're looking for the 8th. Oh, 8. Uh, we shouted this one out last week. It's the inventory. If you're in Guam, go ahead and play at the inventory. They start at 10. That's this weekend. Also this weekend.
I think there's another YCS this weekend.
The side deck is having one in Las Vegas. That's just a regional. And then there's also one in Columbus, Ohio, at the Greater Columbus Convention Center. One in Oklahoma City at the Convention Center. Those guys all this weekend on Saturday at 10. They all start. And then YCS what though?
I have no clue.
I'm gonna search YCS Yu-Gi-Oh, and there better be something coming up.
I swear I thought I heard there was a YCS this weekend. I could be wrong, though.
Event coverage. Wait, no, that's not what we're looking for. YCS, there we go. All it has is Orlando, February 1st, and then March. There's a team YCS in San Salvador. March 15th. Yeah, March 15th.
No.
March 15th, there's a team championship in Las Vegas. The next YCS looks like Buenos Aires in Argentina. Like
I must have lied to myself then.
Nope, no YCS is this weekend. We got some regionals though, so you can go to those. We'll look out for some Fiendsmith Ryzeal deck lists because I'm sure you're gonna see a whole bunch of them. Coming up for the 15th, that's next week, next Saturday. There's gonna be one. There's a YCS or not a YCS. There's a remote duel regional. So you can get yourself signed up for that if you just want to hang out at home. Looking at Lost Empire Games in Arizona, Yuma. There's one in the Robertson Center in Little Rock, Arkansas. That's probably the closest to us. And one at Bosco's in Anchorage, Alaska. The venue, 40 people. You know something's going to happen at that regional.
40 people, you said?
Venue seating capacity, 40 at Bosco's in Anchorage, Alaska.
I need to get a ticket to Alaska, bring Samurai, win a regional.
I mean, what do you think the meta is in Anchorage, Alaska?
Penguins. Penguin deck.
The Penguin deck.
The Penguin deck.
All right. Well, that's some places you can play Yu-Gi-Oh coming up. And shout out to Bosco's in Anchorage, Alaska. So, after that, we're going to move ourselves right along to the topic of the day, and that is what makes a good card. So this is kind of a deck building question, I guess. I would say that when you're building a deck, obviously there's, 10,000 cards in the game, plus there's more now, obviously, but obviously you can't put all those cards in your deck. You can't. It's illegal now. And you got to pick the best cards, and you got to make sure it's cohesive to your game plan. So, that asks the big question, what makes a good card? So, Bader, not to put you on the spot, but do you have a card that you want to talk about as a just kind of a spitball, like fake card? And then we can talk about if it's good or not, or what makes it good.
Yeah, so I guess with how wide of a variety, like how many cards there are in the game, like you said, over 10,000, there's going to be, I mean, obviously there's archetypes, and then there's, your generic search cards like Reinforcement C, Army, Fire Formation Tanky, generic draw cards like Prosperity and Desires. I personally like archetype-specific cards. Obviously, with the decks that I play, White Force, we have in-archetype cards to search. Six Samurai has Rhoda. A card that I thought of, actually, was a Blackwing card. Blackwing hasn't had new support in a couple of years. I think it's actually been like 6 years, maybe. It's been quite a while. I could be wrong, though. It could have been 2020.
You also have indirect support, but that's here or there.
Yeah.
That doesn't count.
One of the craziest cards Blackwing got, in my opinion, was Blackwing Simoon, the Poison Wind. It's a level 6 in hand, 1,600 attack. It says, oh no, we did get cards in Darkwing Blast. I forgot about that. So that was like 2 years ago. Oh. But regardless, it's a 1,600 attack monster that just banishes a Blackwing to activate a Black Whirlwind from the deck, and then immediately normal summon this monster, and then you're locked into Darks for the rest of the turn. I have a problem with that because, the only problem I have with that is, what if you don't have another Blackwing in hand? Which has happened to me, and it was the reason I went 3-1 with Blackwing at locals last month. I was playing Bestial Blackwing, and I went 3-1 because I had Simoon, but no other Blackwing to extend with. The cards in Darkwing Blast gave it a lot of support for one card combos, but just like a small card that I think is not broken, but not bad by any means. It's just a simple effect. You can discard this card and add Black Whirlwind to your hand. And I think it's important to say add, because if you just place it on the field, that's crazy because it dodges Droll and Lockbird. It dodges Ash Blossom, so there's not very many ways to interact with that if your opponent is going second. So that's kind of my way to balance it out. It's just I don't know, a higher attack monster, probably in that 1,600 attack point range. We could make it a tuner, no special summoning effects. The whole effect is just discard this card, add Black Whirlwind to your hand. I think it's an okay at best card, but it would definitely be played in the Blackwing strategy.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that card sounds, like you said, very archetype specific. It's not going to be a card that you want to play outside of Black Wings. So I think that's a big key to that being good. Um yeah.
I just didn't want to make it like a true custom card where it's like discard this card, place Black Whirlwind onto your field, and then normal summon 3 times. Something to kind of balance it out.
Oh,
It's just 1600 attack, so it can't be searched off of Simoon. Discard this card to add Black Whirlwind, so plays in the hand traps a little bit, without completely like, I mean, Droll shuts off the entire deck, but that's because the deck is bad. But obviously, that's something someone's going to want to Ash, as opposed to if they normal summon one of their other guys that does a search, it doesn't hurt as bad.
for sure. No, you want to hear absolute custom cards. Listen to what I created for, I will say for Gren Maju, but I made it generic. It's normal spell card. Banish 20 cards from your main deck face down, destroy all cards your opponent controls. So
Okay,
this is a
so
pure,
it's not a cost.
it is cost to banish the fake cards face down. That's before the colon.
So for cost, it would have to be a semicolon.
Oh, is it semicolon? All right, that's how we're doing it then. Semicolon, errata. Um, so then, you're giving up half of your game. Like I like half of your deck. I say half the game, but you're giving up literally half of your deck to destroy at a maximum 10 cards your opponent control. Well, I guess you can have 11 cards. So, well, no, 12. You could have 12 cards. So the possibility of if your opponent had every single card filled up in all of their zones, you could blow up a possible 12 cards.
Technically, you can get up to 13 cards.
Oh, if you U-Link,
Yep.
I guess that's fair. Okay. If you U-Link your opponent and use all of your trap card zone and you're still giving up more cards than what it is even possible to blow up from your opponent. It's not banishing them face down, which is kind of the best removal. It's not banishing the cards at all. It's destroying, which interacts with a lot of the game. So it's not specifically good. It's not like every single deck is going to be like, yeah, I'm jamming this in my deck over like something like Lightning Storm or something like that. But it helps specifically 2 decks, Gren Maju and Nemlaria. I think those are both decks that are they aren't great. So having a card that is like this, where it's like, yeah, it's a generic card, but this is pretty much for you, dude. Yeah, hell yeah, and both of those are like going second strategies, so they need something. I won't say they need they need more cards, but I would say in archetype help. Again, because it is generic, but this is again, like
It's got its target audience.
yeah, that's kind of it. Is like there's a specific person this is for.
And that person is you.
But yeah, I mean, absolute custom card, and now I'm gonna put this into some scenarios and put this into some context. All right, so we're talking about these cards. I would say in other card games, there's 3 times you would be like thinking about like, is this card good? And that's like the early game, the mid game, and the late game. That doesn't really exist in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because games can be over pretty much as soon as they start, honestly, sometimes. So it's kind of just broken down to going first and going second cards. And to show that off, I'm gonna just use the card I had because I just have this drawn up on the iPad. So the card I made, if you were to try to say this was a going first card, it would do nothing for you. There's nothing that this card could do going first, so you wouldn't play it going first. It's a going second card. You definitely very good going second card. So I would consider this a going second card. We're just gonna leave this here, and then we're gonna move on to another card. Lightning Storm. I specifically talked about Lightning Storm earlier. This is very close to the card that I made, except obviously my card's way better. Uh, not a going first card. It's going second card. Now we're going to move on to something completely different. A trap card. We're going to look at Dimensional Barrier. What would this do for you going second? Stop your opponent from summoning or using effects of cards on their turn 3. It's not quite as good as stopping them from doing it before they've even played. So I would consider this a going first card. You wouldn't want this in your deck going second. And these are all, good deck building questions and things you should be thinking about when you're building your deck and building your side deck. And now the best card of all the cards that I've shown so far, it's Pot of Greed. What happens when you play Pot of Greed going first? Oh, you have now a 6-card hand. What happens when you activate Pot of Greed going second? Oh,
you get Ash.
I mean that both are valid in that scenario. But if you have play going second, technically you have a 7-card hand. So it doesn't quite matter where you play Pot of Greed, it's gonna be good. So this kind of is the line of staple card that's just going to be in your deck all the time. You mentioned another one, Ash Blossom. That's just one of those cards. It's playable on both turns, especially now with like things like Fawalos and the other Molchonri cards. You can very well just Ash Blossom going first, and I even had that experience this week, just on Tuesday. So it's Ash Blossom is something you can activate on the first turn and going second. And it is also in kind of like a niche spot where it's a hand trap. So you kind of like have to have it for your going second turns. Because you can activate them on the first turn when you haven't played yet. So those are always going to be fairly good, regardless of what they do. And in the end, all of these cards, you have to ask yourself the question, what are they doing for you? If you're going to put it in your deck, it has to do something for you. For me and my card, I'm playing Grand Maju, so my idea is I need to banish as many cards as I can without asking questions. Like, so if I say main phase and they're like, yeah, main phase is fine, I can activate a card and then not be like the effect I want is actually banishing the cards. I mean, face up, face down. That's the effect that I want. So I need to be able to do that. And if my opponent doesn't say Lancia in the standby phase and they allow me to go to my main phase, I want to be able to just jam that. Obviously, not quite as good as as a quick effect, something like Gizmek Orochi, because that's like a quick effect. You can just banish cards and it's at cost. But this card, we're going to ask the question, what's it doing for me? Is it a combo piece? Well, my deck really doesn't combo, so I mean, technically yes, but it's not really something that I'm like playing in the middle of my turn. Something like maybe something like what your Blackwing card would be, where like you add a Blackwing card, well you're going to add this card so then you can discard it and then add Black Whirlwind. And then you also have a Blackwing in your graveyard. I could see that being something.
Yeah, and there is Blackwings that say when it's normal summoned, you can revive a Blackwing from the graveyard. So like that could be some actual synergy with it.
Yes.
When I was designing this card in my head, I didn't make it a starter or an extender per se, more of like a cycling.
Yeah. So that's also your card also fits another piece of this, and that's card advantage and consistency. So your card specifically adds one card, and that one card that it adds is really good for your whole strategy. So it just is the consistency key. So like that's like a big thing. It hits the combo thing. Card advantage. Well, your card adds Black Whirlwind, and then Black Whirlwind adds you more cards. So yes, it hits the card advantage thing, and then how much advantage it really gets you depends upon what you're doing with it. So obviously Black Whirlwind, you're going to be adding a whole bunch of monsters And that's really limited on how many card monsters you normal summon, right? Or is that's what triggers Black Rule 1?
Yeah, it's on the normal summon specifically of a Blackwing.
Yeah, so I mean, it really is how many times are you going to be able to activate that? It depends on how much card advantage you're really getting out of it. Now, your card does not meet the removal category, uh, because your card doesn't remove something. Your card adds something. Where my card hits this on the head. My card is like the staple removal card for whatever it is. Now, does my card meet card advantage? It can. Where if I use one card, again, we are banishing the cards face down, but again, that's the effect that I want. So I have to take that with a grain of salt. In other decks where say you can't play this in Bader's like Blackwing deck, because this card would be very bad for card advantage. Whereas or like a Grenmaju deck where I'm specifically wanting to banish cards, this kind of doesn't hit the card advantage in the same way as the Blackwing card that Bader came up with, but it does still kind of count here. Again, we are.
Yeah,
Oh,
your card makes advantage by like equalizing the board state.
yeah. Yeah, making my opponent go minus with one card. So I'm like, if I can blow up at least 2 cards with this, then I feel like the banishing 20 cards isn't a problem. Not a consistency card though, because this card doesn't add me anything. It doesn't. It's not something I can get to in the middle of my game plan because I don't have a get blast or search a card for get blasted or whatever. They should hire me for art and naming cards because I'm great at this. So yeah, consistency. It doesn't meet this requirement, so this is bad. But it does hit removal really well and card advantage, so that is what this card is doing for me, and that is the game plan. The game plan is going to be banishing cards. This card meets the game plan. Bader's Blackwing card. It's a Blackwing. It's the game plan. That's just kind of what it.
So
The game plan is kind of the easiest requirement to meet because you can justify anything. So just because it is in your game plan doesn't mean it meets all of these other categories.
yeah, it's a lot to think about with what one card can be. Can it be a starter, extender, equalizer, interaction? It's honestly a tough thing for Konami to think about when designing cards.
When
And they
designing,
design so many.
and when you're building a deck too. So just kind of like going back over our other uh, examples. Pot of Greed is going to be the easiest one because is it a combo piece? No. Is it part of the game plan? Not technically. What's it do for card advantage? It's a guaranteed +1. I guess I can't say guaranteed, but it's almost always going to be a +1, and it's that alone is going to be good for consistency. Is it a removal card? No. So this is a card advantage consistency card. We're just gonna move this over here. Lightning Storm again. This one's gonna meet kind of the same meet the same category as what mine does. It's not. It can be card advantage. It's not consistency. It can meet the game plan if you're choosing to go second. So if you're going second deck, you're going to be looking at Lightning Storm because it's going to be a card that's going to help you with your game plan. Is it a combo piece? No, because you're not searching for it, and it's not something you like summon in the middle of your turn. So this is kind of where it is in these two corners. Moving on to Dimensional Barrier. Is it a combo piece? No. Is it card advantage? Not specifically. Is it consistency? I wouldn't say so. Is it removal? No. So how do you classify?
In a roundabout way, I would say it's removal.
Yeah,
it's a prevention removal.
Prevention. That's kind of a secret category I haven't really put on any here because I didn't think about that when I created this. But yeah, there is a kind of secret category here. Stop ing opponent. And then this fits in that category. So yeah, I think I've drugged this out long enough. Unless you have something else that you really want to like add to this, or something that you've thought about in the meantime.
No, not particularly. I mean, like you've been nailing it with examples and whatnot.
Yeah. So that I mean, thank you. It's really just kind of like there's a lot to think about when you're building a deck. So last week we talked about changing things. This is why. This is because there's building a deck is hard. Like it's I've had this struggle. I won't say that I'm like putting too much effort into it, but I've had this struggle for the past few weeks of I said I don't know what to do with Cashed Hero. Well, this is something that I'm gonna have to look at when I'm building my next Cashed Hero thing. Bader's already had me lean towards Fiendsmith, so obviously those Fiendsmith cards are good. So I'm gonna go through and I'm going to look at all of these things and make the best decision on what cards to add to my deck. So that is kind of the dilemma of deck building. And it, again, not an easy thing to do. So do not feel bad about going to the internet and finding yourself a deck list, at least as a starting point.
Yeah, deck building is one of the most challenging things in any card game. But once you get that list that works for you, it feels like the most rewarding thing to me.
Yeah, just showing up, knowing what all your cards in your deck are for specifically and how to use them in the exact scenario. And Yu-Gi-Oh is kind of like the big thing for that is like you're going to see those cards because it's probably the most consistent card game. Like you're doing one card combos. Like if I see this card, I can end on this. And you can do that similar thing on like 2 or 3 different cards. Because this card can add me this card can add me that card, or I can just chain them together and then get to the same result.
And
So,
it's great.
Yu-Gi-Oh is a great game. I like to dog on it, but it is a pretty cool game. But that is going to be the discussion for what makes a good card. Obviously, there might be a topic that I missed. What makes a good card? So if you think of any of that, put that in the chat down below on YouTube, on here on Twitch. We are about to wrap up, so if you happen to think of something, throw it up as we're gonna give our parting words. So Bader, what do you have anything before we go?
Support local. That's where you play. Give me more support for some of my favorite decks. Subscribe to DuelRadio. Follow the Twitch channel. It's DY1ARN, right?
Nope, I officially changed it.
Oh,
Yeah, it's DuelRadio now.
Okay, yeah, I can't really watch Twitch while I do this because then 2 sounds go off at once, so I can't have echo.
Fair enough. Well, as for Beta and myself, I'd like to thank you so much for listening this far in the podcast. This one was kind of a longer one. I won't say as long as other ones have been, but we're trying to keep it short, and this is kind of a long discussion. But I mean, we had some good talking points on it. So yeah, again, as Bader said, be sure to sub to me on Twitch. DuelRadio, no space. So you can hear us live every Thursday, starting at 7 Central Standard Time. And then we're going to be uploading on YouTube at DuelRadio Friday the next day at noon. So support your locals. It's where you play games and you meet new people. And if you're lucky, you might just see us there. All right, everybody, have a good night. Bye.
Bye, buddy. Hope you find your dad.
All right, this is the DuelRadio music part. Man, this is going to be the hardest struggle because I gotta find something that works. Just
give me a beat and I'll